Tickle, 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 tickle fight! Interesting. Okay, people, welcome back to another Fwoosh overview. Today, let's take a look at, well, most of the Hasbro Marvel Legends Fantastic Four retro wave. And I do mean welcome back. It has been almost, has it been 2 weeks since I turned these cameras on? Real life, what can I say? But you know we're always going to come back to the toys at some point. Saying that, I have had this set from Dorkside Toys for a few weeks now. I haven't got to them. But I am now, because I am excited about these. My favorite Fantastic Four costumes are the blue and white, much to Veeb's annoyance. But I've also been wanting a High Evolutionary because that Evolutionary War, the crossover annual issue where the B Avengers went out and did their thing. I don't know why that's one of my favorite issues ever. Non-X-Men issues ever. Then for Psycho-Man, I have no connection to Psycho-Man. Except the Marvel Handbook. As I've said tons of times before, many a morning spent before school eating cereal, memorizing the pictures and the bios and the real names and everything. So I wanted plastic representation. Hopefully Hasbro delivered that. I won't be doing Human Torch today because I already did an overview of him. You can probably check that out here. Am I pointing in the right spot? Somewhere right here. But short and sweet, I like this version. Translucent black lines on it. Looks like a Jolly Rancher. Urge to lick. Very strong. The card backs are meant to look like the old school card backs with the big bubble, the huge card in 6-inch scale. It takes up so much room. On the back, you get the same drawings from the front, a bio for each. The rest of the waves, some attentions, some warnings. But let's start out with Thing. I'm going to save the villains till last since they're mostly new sculpts and new characters for the shelf. Back in the day, this would have been a bubble just attached to the front, but they actually sandwich it between two pieces of cardstock. Let's see what happens when we attempt to do it gentle-like. Well, as gentle as I apparently get. It does kind of work. Okay, if you have any iteration of this Marvel Legends thing, and there's been at least a couple, you know the deal here. It's a big, bulky bruiser body, all covered in rocks, that's slightly larger than some people prefer, but not as huge as I almost expected the first time around. It's a good compromise between the two schools of thought. And like I said, the previous one, I don't remember where this is from. It's like a more modern version, but mostly the same body. You can see the differences already. We'll get into those. That same kind of paint job to it where the rock is mostly in the orange plastic color, and then there's a yellowish overspray. And in fact, I was ready to rip this up for being kind of spotty, but then when I pulled this out, I remembered it was way heavier here. It looks like there's a spotlight shining down. The lightness here and across the pecs, up on top of the shoulder, down on the back of the forearm, and then on top of the feet. Are we looking at anything? Oh, across the back up here too. He's just on stage. He's performing. If I were king of Yancey Street. So it's nice, but I still kind of prefer the original version. It's a darker orange. It has the black wash bringing out all the detail of the rocks. It just looks more grungy. These two older ones use the exact same body, shorts down to the swivel on the thigh. Between the heads, I'm okay with this one, but I like myself a big brow. Just a big, chunky, heavy shelf up there. But then with this new one, it goes older school. It has the forehead that comes all the way down to almost a cap brim. I hate to call it that because now that I'm looking at it, it almost looks like a batting helmet. It evokes a retro feel. The other big difference is the shorts. They sculpted a line higher up and then rocks down to the swivel. They could have rocked it up all the way up into there and made it even shorter shorts. I think I prefer this. It doesn't get it quite as risque. Oh, there's some paint sludge back there. I guess if you wanted to swap heads, the colors are fairly close. Yeah, the highlight may be brighter and the orange plastic may be slightly off, but that's not terrible. But I'm growing to like this the more I mess with it. Well, there's also the teeth debate too. On this one, it goes, again, far back in the deep reaches of the past where Thing didn't have teeth. But the way this is sculpted also gives me just kind of a surprised vibe. Like he just walked in on his parents doing something he didn't want to see. What are you guys doing? On top of that, the eyes aren't painted the straightest. The brow does a lot to help hide it, but once you get up in there, you can see this one's just a little low. Since I'm on the subject, we might as well go through accessories. I know that's out of order from usual, but yeah, whatever. There's also this toothy Benji Grimm if you prefer to have some pearly whites in there. Same aesthetic with the brow and stuff, so it's pulled from the same era. On top of that, the eyes are also painted nicer. I think I like pissed off more than slightly sleepy. Besides that, you also have the emotive open hands. It's not really a grip, more of attempting to grasp. If you don't care for those and want some clobbering time, there's these fists that you can swap in. And I like the options. Of course, you want your bruiser to have a fist, you know, to pound away on the bad guy, but I also like to have this just to break things up. That allows you to put them in that running at you, about to obliterate your face pose. We're going to go over articulation, even though we've probably done it twice before. There's a ball going up into the skull, hinge going down into the neck, can look up about right there. Down, the chin kind of gets in the way, but there's a little. Just slight tilt. Swivel. Peg at the shoulder rotates all the way around with a hinge that goes out to 90. Hinge and swivel at the elbow comes up to 90. There's just too much brick there. Swivel. Rotation at the wrist with a hinge that goes in very far, out pretty good. Looks like a dumbbell joint of some kind at the torso. Can crunch forward. Arcs back. Some tilt. Rotation. And then there's also a swivel at the waist. Ball coming out to the hip comes forward. Back. Out. Not shabby. Swivel at the thigh. Double knee comes up. Oh, no. There's more hinge right there. Let's bring that to there, and boom. Kicks his rocky ass. Hinge at the ankle goes back, goes forward. Forward facing pin for rocker. I feel lost now that I've already done accessories. And since I'm doing the whole wave, we'll do comparisons at the back. That means we move on to Mr. Fantastic. It is kind of easy to spread. Oh. Interesting. Okay. Let's pull that out. Does that go right back together? Good as new. And ooh, I like this. There's an overwhelming bright whiteness to it, but it's very Reed-like. I think the lab coat, well, I don't know. Is it new or is it reuse? Either way, it works on this body. And that's along with the sleeves with its wrinkles and running down. And I'm trying to spice up the description of a regular lab coat for you. But when it comes down to it, maybe the plainness works in its favor because it does exactly what it's supposed to. Have buttons running down this side with a pocket on the other side. And then here, ooh, it would have been cool to kind of see some pins or something sticking out right there. The body underneath is reuse of the previous reed. Same torso, same crotch, same legs, same duck feet. You can see some sheen variation. This is very matte, and then it gets shiny below. I think that may be because, yeah, it looks like this is cast in white, this is cast in blue, so this is painted. But if you plan on leaving it like this, it hides most of that. The 4 is fairly clean and plain compared to that old one. Look at the extra lines going around it and stuff right there. But again, retro feeling. The belt is also painted on. There's no edge down below. I don't care too much for these feet. In neutral position, which is right here and right here, you get this. But I guess besides the Fantastic Four costume underneath a generic lab coat, the defining factor is the head, and unfortunately, on mine, the left eye is painted nice. The right eye is pointed in a bit. And I was going to say, I could just switch with this old one since I'm not going to use it anymore, but even that has the right and left eye looking slightly different. Also, the gray in the hair goes up higher than the older one. But again, we're going to go out of order with the accessories because we're so focused on the head and the lab coat. You can pop the arms out here and remove the lab coat and then pop costume arms in. In the package on these, you have these crazy creeper fingers. It's just a constant tickle party when Reed's around. But you can also pull the hands out of the sleeves and pop these out and then put those in there for a more subdued look. Unfortunately, there's no representation of his power when you have it like this. That's why I've always preferred this. 1, it's in my blue and white, and 2, you can't get much more stretchy than this. Well, I guess you could, but you'd be hard-pressed to find a nice look to it. The neck pegs don't match at all, but you can get some blue tack or something and make this work on here. And I really like this. This makes him stand out on the shelf. You run into the same problem of blues not matching between different plastics. The white rubber parts have faded compared to the painted whites, and the colors don't quite match with the new blues, but I can't help it. I like it. Well, I guess I'll have to keep an eye out for... I'll be on the lookout for another Reed head that's actually looking forward. And I don't really have anything against this Gilligan's Island professor head that came on this body, but it doesn't feel as modern. It doesn't feel as today's Hasbro as this one does. Skin tone is awful pale too. Perfect world, this reed would come, to bring him in again, this reed would come with this arm, with the darker blue and the white glove. It's nice and simple. It shows off his power, but it doesn't take up shelf space. It's a very small footprint. If you want to use the lab coat from the new reed on the old one, because the sleeves are white, you can do that too. But the shoulders are very, very loose. They rotate around. They do flop. I was going to say, well, they don't quite flop, but they do. Putting them on the right way doesn't really help. I was going to say maybe it would, but it doesn't. I wonder why that was changed, because this is the same torso. At least I think it's the same torso. So does that mean these? Yeah. Why'd they change the pegs? Going over articulation, there is a ball joint at the top of the neck with a hinge down low. There is up, there is down, slight tilt, rotation. Peg at the shoulder goes all the way around, hinge up to 90. Swivel at the bicep, double elbow. Oh, nice range. Swivel at the wrist and then hinge in and out. And that's the same on the stretchy hands if you want to use those. Hinge mid-torso, cranks forward, arcs back, swivel at the waist. And if you're using the jacket, it is softer, but it does get in the way a little bit. And especially if you're cranked over, you'll get that riding a broomstick look. Ball to the hip, comes forward, goes back, out, could be better. Swivel at the thigh, double knee. Oh, he's so stretchy, he goes past his ass. Hinge at the ankle, goes back, forward facing pin for rocker. Then there is Invisible Woman. Let's see if I can do that again. Not as clean, but it still works if you're wanting to preserve. Oh, well, yeah, you gotta be kind of careful with it. You want it to tear just up the sides, not... Oh, well, there you go. Gotta do that. If you want those standing in front of your figures, that may work if you're into that kind of thing. I just love the blue and white, but yeah, you see. Okay, we'll get to that. Again, pulling out an older Sue, the body is reuse. We've seen this figure several times, and at this point, I can't even tell you who reuses this body. But as far as in front of me right now, this is the same figure. Just a basic female shape coming down to some wrinkles on the shoes, and then the hands we have been seeing for a while. It doesn't matter. Cosmic rays, mutant, magic, they're gonna get these. And I like this. This works. Again, the blues, the whites, the basic body shape. It calls back to a retro feel. And it's not just because of the look itself. It's where it takes my brain, I guess. But then I don't know if it's done on purpose or because things have changed over the past couple of years where you can't just easily travel overseas. Something happened to this face. In person, it's not as bad as I thought when I first saw the pictures, but it's still not good. I really do not mind the hair. It's a throwback and I'm okay with that, but the eyes and the lips and just the overall facial features, I don't know if paint could fix this or if the sculpt just does something to it, but I don't like it at all. I think my master plan is to take this hair, pop it off this face, this head, and try to find a replacement for that. Because if I do this, and then I do this, I'm okay with this overall look. But that's not as retro feeling as I would like on the white and blue. Maybe this one, see what that looks like? Better and a lot more wash to the hair, but I never liked how this hair laid. If you get it down on the shoulders, it feels like her head is jutting forward. But I may do the swap that people have been doing with the Dazzler hair. See what that looks like. But keeping with the out of order for accessories, she has this way more clear than I remember force shield thing. There's a slot where you can jam the fingers in, and that holds way better than I was expecting. Maybe you're supposed to do that. I'll probably display it like this until I find a replacement. But then if you're not wanting to use the magic hands, those both pop out and there are replacement fists. Because maybe Sue wants to go clobbering Tom every now and then. But the hair doesn't do articulation any favors because it's a piece of plastic that comes down over the shoulders. There is a ball joint with a hinge going down into the neck. Not a lot of up. Well, more down than I thought. Some tilt. Swivel. You gotta kind of work around it. Arm rotates all the way around and then hinges out to 90. Hinge and swivel at the elbow comes up to 90 and then rotates around side to side. Ball joint mid-torso gets some hula hoop. Ball at the hip comes forward, goes back, out. Swivel at the thigh. Double knee. Not quite, but you can force it. Hinge at the ankle goes back, goes forward, forward-facing pin for rocker. That brings us to Psycho-Man. That didn't work. Yeah. Oh, well, this one had tape on it holding it. That's not fair. And I really, really like the look of this. It's the contrasting bright white with the metallic greens, and then the swirly twirly yellow face just poking out from all that. The hard angles, and then these cylinders inside the piping. This is crazy with the pull floaties or something, just the tubing going around the legs. And it forms a cage around the feet that makes it feel very cumbersome, but it doesn't really get in the way as much as you would think. Okay, it bunches up right there when you try to knee the leg. Yeah, I just use knee as a verb, but you can't help thinking that it looks fantastic. It does kind of throw me off to go from kind of jungle gym-ish up to here where it's more of a tunic with the skirt piece hanging down and then almost bare arms. Well, not bare. Again, it has those circles that are connected all the way down to here, but I almost feel like these should have wrapped around here too with some white sleeves. But that's just some personal preference. Just a little bit of what I would have done, which doesn't really matter because I'm looking at this as a plastic translation from comic book to toy form, and ooh, I'm liking what I'm holding. I wish there was some shading to the white because there is some detail work in places that gets lost once you get away from the figure a bit. I'd like to see some separation between that besides just natural light shadow. Now that I'm looking closer, super, super baggy pants. I mean, there's so many wrinkles sculpted into here, just which is kind of a jolt when you come from the hip here and it's just smooth. Bow! His underpants he left on the floor for a long, long time. It's been in the laundry basket and he just pulled it out, got in costume, ran off to fight the Fantastic Four. Kind of the symbol here with a helmet going around a face, which I'm assuming the face is part of the helmet too because, or maybe his skin is that metallic gold. Some nice paint lines to the black here and also around the eyes. They make them stand out really nice. I feel like the head should be larger, especially compared to the size of the hands, and I think that would have helped scale a little bit, which we will look at again at the end there. But I think that's one of my major problems with this figure. Keeping with the trend of accessories next, he also comes with his control box. Basically, this controls emotions, and he only goes for, you know, the deep down ones he likes to use on enemies. Fear, doubt, and hate. I wonder if there's an opposite box that's like courage, confidence, and love, you know? What's the matter with you, Psycho-Man? Nice sculpt to the whole thing, again, following the aesthetic of the figure itself, but there's not a lot of paint here. It's just the sculpt and then these words. Which I guess works, but I feel like it's the same thing as Sue, you know, where there's not a lot of communication, or not as much communication between the factory and Hasbro as there used to be. And if this was caught earlier, it'd been like, oh, well, throw a wash here or some paint apps there. Right. Not the easiest thing to put in hand, but it can go. Fear, doubt, and hate. When it comes to articulation, I think the neck suffers because of the design itself. I think there's a ball joint going up into the head and making it look like the head or helmet or hood or whatever is part of the chest worked against them. You try to look up and that just runs into there. I mean, physics. On the front, this part here goes down into the torso, so there is a little bit of down. More tilt than I figured. Rotation. Arm rotates all the way around, hinges out to almost 90. Bicep swivel, and I like how it's integrated into the shoulder ball. Double elbow comes up to about right there. Wrist rotation, hinge in and out. Ball hidden down behind this piece, and you, well, actually, that's you can get some crunch, get some arc, get some tilt, some rotation. That crotch cover is slightly soft. It's thick at the sides, though. It does float. It pushes up a little bit to get out of the way of the ball at the hip, but not completely. That's also some pipe getting in the way there. It goes back out. Not shabby for this thickness. Swivel at the thigh, where it goes from smooth to wrinkly, and inside this cage. We already showed the double knee goes up to about right there. Hinge at the ankle goes back, forward facing pin for rocker. And then let's finish off the wave with the High Evolutionary. Oh, still doesn't work. There is some tape. What we're gonna do is slice across here and then make it rip over here. Well, damn, it's still not come out as clean as that first one I did. And you know what? I don't care what anyone says. I still like swirly twirly plastic. I like the marbleized look. It makes it look a bit ethereal, a more comic book-like. It's not supposed to be see yourself in the reflection metal, but it gets the point across. Every now and then it does something that I don't care for, and here it's this streak going across the chest. think it's because of that plastic. That can't be on purpose, right? Looking at old handle head High Evolutionary himself, the studs coming down on the body and forming an H, which I'm just now realizing, comes down and goes around on the belt, comes around to the back, down this lower tunic piece, and I love me some metal studs. That just throws a lot of detail in there. It's not what I remember from that issue I was talking about earlier. From what I understand, this is a more modern look, but it's still definitely High Evolutionary. There's no denying that. Like I said, he's got this up here where you can carry him around to the store if you want to. There's the magentas, there's the silvers, there's no denying this. The lines sculpted into the arms and the legs, they're so close together and so accurate, like parallel, that it messes with my brain. I like how the light bounces off of it with the blues and the silvers. It's very mesmerizing. In fact, I think that's kind of swirly and kind of twirly, but it totally works in its favor. And that's the same for the reddish parts too, although there is a difference in sheen from here and here to here and here. The boots and the gloves are much, much shinier, which is cool, but at the same time, those should be kind of cloth, right? He's got to walk, he's got a grip, and this seems like it should be the same material. It's the head that okay. It's the head that realistically should be shinier, but here you seem to lose a lot of detail because of the glare. I mean, there is a lot of sculpt work going here, like almost segmented metal plates for his face. I do like the yellow eyes peering out, even though it seems like it misses slightly. This piece floats, but I keep feeling like it goes up too high. I keep wanting to pull it down. It looks more symmetrical low. But I think my biggest gripe will come in a little bit because, again, the scale, or well, the size, is smaller than I expected. In the package has a right fist and a left, almost a power magic using hand. But then those also pull out, and there's an alternate right hand to give you curiosity hands, I guess. Or you can give them fists for both sides. For articulation, there is actually a dumbbell joint at the top of the neck. And is there anything low? If there is something low, it's kind of killed by the collar. With that dumbbell, you get some up, you get some down. So much tilt. There it is. I've been waiting for you all, wave. Rotation. Peg at the shoulder goes around. You have to go around the shoulder pads though and kind of kick out and then down and around. Very tight detents at the hinge too, but it does come up to 90. Swivel at the bicep. Double elbow comes all the way up. The bottom, yeah, a little loose, but it doesn't flop down. Rotation at the wrist, and then hinge in and out. Ball joint mid-torso, some hula hoop action, goes tilt, tilt, back, forward, and then also rotates. Ball coming out to the hip, comes forward, back, out. Contender for the wave. Swivel at the thigh. Double knee. Oh, he's too muscular. He can't reach. Swivel at the boot. Hinge at the ankle goes back, goes forward. Forward facing pin for rocker. And you know what? I kept saying that this is where I was going to have a problem with the villains, but after doing some research and then standing them as straight up side by side as I can, I don't know if I have that much of a problem with it. Sue stands, well, to the top of that hair, is about 6 1/8. High Evolutionary up to the top of his head and not that handle is about 6 1/4. Reed is 6 3/16. Psycho-Man is, well, he's about 6 1/4 too. And then the Thing is 7 1/4. And my problem was, maybe back during the Evolutionary War, I always pictured High Evolutionary as, you know, larger than life. And the same for Psycho-Man. Most of the covers you see him on, he's just towering over other characters. But looking deeper, this is just a scientist in a skin-tight suit, and this is a character from the Microverse. If you go to Marvel.com, High Evolutionary is 6'2", Reed is 6'1", and Psycho-Man is 5'9". So this is accurate. After that, it comes down to head sizes, and even then, this could probably be bigger. Same with Psycho-Man, but it still kind of fits. Then you put him with other recent classic villains, and that's where the smallness comes back into play, I think. I mean, Red Skull's supposed to be just a dude, and I guess Dormammu can be any size he wants. Same with Ultron. It fits, but your eye is drawn to it. Once you get it in your head, it's hard to get out. So at the end of the day, do I finally have my Fantastic Four? Time will tell, I guess. Like I said, the blue and the whites are my jam, so these definitely fit into my personal preference. Some customizing to be done. Like I said, I may swap the body to that bigger, stretchier Reed. Probably some adjustments to Sue's head. And then there's 2 more villains for the shelf who both look good. Again, could probably use some shadowing, some paints here and there, but I've come to terms with the size, and I think that was most of the battle. Put this torch here, and yeah, and don't tell anybody, but I'm a sucker for retro cards. I have no nostalgia for these cards. I don't think, when those came out, I was either not collecting or I was doing Star Wars hardcore, and I was passing by the Marvel stuff until they actually went 6-inch and super articulated. But that doesn't mean I hate the look of these carded figures. They're huge. They take up a lot of wall space. Plus, like I said, I was after these looks. These will be my display figures. And I'm not even the biggest Fantastic Four guy. I skew X most of the time, but there's no denying that they have their place on the Marvel shelf. Well, in my head at least, from back in the day when I read comics, there's X-Men, there's Avengers, and there's Fantastic Four. At least when it comes to teams, you know? There's other teams out there, but those were the biggies. And I needed them in plastic form. And even though I have most of the older ones, these have taken their place. So if you enjoyed the overview, comment, like, subscribe. Much love to the plus. If you're interested in seeing videos early or in a position to help out the channel, patreon.com. But wherever you may be watching this, I'll always catch you on the Fwoosh. And again, whenever I get into need some paint or swap this, fix that mode, that's one of my enjoyments of this hobby. Should these be perfect right out of the package? Sure, of course, but we're talking about retail figures, and even though the prices are going up, they're still on the cheaper end when it comes to this whole crazy hobby. But I love customizing just as much as going to the store and buying stuff, or pre-ordering, ordering online, whatever. But when I say that, that's mostly for me. I can understand people being disappointed because they don't like doing stuff like that. They just want to buy it and have Sue look nice, or, you know, the paints here, the shading there.